That is an obviously down in the dumps Jeremy Swayman, and not necessarily a fair thing to do to him last night.
No.
I mean, it is professional sports, and he is compensated, but you're throwing that guy in that game 7.
Throwing him to the wolves.
And he ends up being the guy who puts it on himself. So I give him credit for that. But
that's back to the coach.
Yeah.
I mean, when have you ever seen a coach, and I don't know, I'm asking this question, in game 7,
make a goalie change for game
which
7?
is probably the most important position other than court. It would be like a team getting to the Super Bowl and then go, you know what? We're going to go with the other guy.
Yeah.
So when have you ever seen a team do that when a guy has not played and say, we're going to go with you in the most important game?
Never, and that's why he should have gone with them in Game 5.
Right,
when
but
it
he
was,
didn't.
I know, but even then, it was like Ullmark's a game time decision. Let's not even risk it. So, was there still this lingering injury, or was he just not confident in Ullmark to be able to
Let's
get the
not
win?
blame it on the injury. The injury has not, because you played him in game 6.
I know.
So game 7. Now we all agree probably should have did it after game 4, but he chose not to. And that's why we're going back to, I think Scheim and myself are now going back to Jim Montgomery. Was he the coach? Was he the right choice? Maybe as a player's coach, yes. But now you have to take it one step forward to maybe dealing with some of the line combinations, decision making.
Well, yeah, from you acknowledge that he's a player's coach.
Yes.
And the guys wanted to play for him because he didn't call them out publicly or yell loudly at them.
Or they make the tough decisions.
But when it comes to coaching decisions, on the Subaru of New England text line, which is 37937, find your authorized Subaru retailer at SubaruofNewEngland.com. Texter is suggesting that it's a 781 texter suggesting that the very first time that Jim Montgomery faced any kind of real adversity was this series. He didn't face it at all during the regular season.
Right.
And in this texter's mind, he blew it.
He peed down his leg Friday night. We can't listen to this enough, Greg. I'm sorry. This is Montgomery after the game being asked about what the future holds for Linus and why Linus stayed in the game on Friday night.
No, I think Linus is fine. I looked at him in the eyes a few times when he came back to the bench, and I liked the way his eyes were looking. Like, he looked intense and he looked keen.
He looked keen and intense. And then after Game 7, he blames goalie Bob. Mm. If you're a player's coach and the players don't end up playing for you, it lands at your feet.
Can I also just say the lackluster that was the honorary fan banner captain last night for a Game 7 at the Garden, and I'm a Derek White girl. Mm-hmm. I think Derek White's been awesome, but you've got Grant Williams and Derek White. Mm-hmm. That's who you went with for Game 7?
Well,
where are the Jays?
Well, I would assume that they were unavailable. I would assume they asked them, the Jays.
Right.
I mean,
maybe they're chilling, resting.
Yes.
Am I the only one that when that popped up, I'm like, excuse me?
I think so. Yeah, I didn't even notice it until you said it. But I would think that why wouldn't they go with like a former,
give me a
Ray
big
Bork.
celebrity. There are a million other people that you put in that position. Grant Williams?
Yeah. Bobes declined.
Could have gone with Greg Hill.
Put out Ray Bork. I mean,
Ray Bork, did he agitate someone? Because outside of Greg Hill Foundation events, he's persona non grata at Fenway for the Winter Classic.
Yeah, there's an issue over there.
Break out Chara then. All right, if there's an issue with Bork and Chara hanging around, break him out.
The marathon. But honest to God, the Bruin fan experience has to be the absolute worst of any of the 4 teams in town. They have this season where they just are incredible to the point of absurdity. And then they build a 3-1 series lead. Scheim says he's going to eat his hat if they lose.
I never said that, by the way. I saw that on the text line. The only time I ever said I would eat my hat is if Will Levis went first overall and he didn't get drafted.
No, I think you did say you would eat your hat if the Bruins lost.
I think you said if Bernays was on it.
Yeah. No, he said it was cheese, like squeezed cheese. If they had some Wisp Pride or something, whatever that stuff is called on it.
Probably eat another block of cheddar.
I think you might have said, like, when you did this is over, I'll eat my hat. But then, when you start to look at some of the guys, I don't necessarily blame Sweeney, But when do we maybe look higher up that ladder and say, Seabass, what do you've been here? I mean, we did it with Danny. Hey, Seabass, you've been here, 14 years? You brought us one title. What's going on, Seabass? Is it time for maybe a change in that direction?
Are you serious?
I've been on this train for a while. And we here's where I always say, this is where I feel like sometimes there are a lot of fraudulent fans out here, because we'll criticize and crush the Red Sox for who's sitting atop things, front office, GM, all that good stuff, and they'll win championships. And granted, they might go from first place to last place, but then win a championship. The Bruins, and Curtis, I think you might have brought this up early, like Bergeron's going to go down as one of the greatest Bruins players of all time, but an underachiever.
Yeah,
one title.
I'm sorry.
Seabass, one title.
In this particular case, I think Cam Neely and Don Sweeney put this team in the absolute best position they could put it in to win. Well, that's with Cam Neely.
How do we know that?
Can we stop with the Sweeney's crap, too? I mean, honest to God.
What do you mean, Curtis?
What does it matter if you don't win? What's the point?
He went and he won the trade deadline by far.
When are they going to have the parade for the trade deadline victory? Honestly, who cares? It's not. I don't know if you've heard this. It's a great saying. I came up with it. They don't draw pictures in the box score.
Yeah.
Okay. It's about results, not how it looked. And the results. The only reason the regular season exists is to determine playoff seeding. That's it. And the only reason you build a roster is to win a championship. Correct?
Yeah.
So then, what the hell matters about the regular season?
It doesn't, and I told you that. Yeah, and that's why I said all the regular season did for this Bruins team was put a giant anchor on their neck, because now they had to try to live up to the expectations that we had of them because of what they did, and it seems like you didn't have the coach that was built to be able to do that. You clearly didn't have the players that could do that. Bergeron, great leader, but wasn't the captain to be able to say, hey, guys, we had a great regular season.
But we're done with that. We're going to have the goldfish mentality of the regular season, and we're starting all over again.
And the Celtics deal with a far greater grading curve than the Bruins do. Brad Stevens was fired for getting to the conference finals year after year after year. I mean, we're talking about Cassidy like he was this great coach, and Monty had this great regular season. With the Celtics, thankfully, nothing else matters but titles. The Bruins, we celebrate everything but what matters most.
That's true.
This is Jim from Beverly. Hello, Jim.
Hey, good morning, Greg.
What's up?
I can't believe what I'm listening to here. You're blaming the coach. You're blaming the GM. How about blaming the freaking players? Mm-hmm. They couldn't get the puck out of their own zone.
Yep.
That starting line didn't show up for Game 7 against St. Louis, and they don't show up for Game 7 last night. Are you kidding me? Game 7. It's like it don't mean anything. How about getting the puck out of your own end? I couldn't believe what I watched last night.
Well, Jim, if that's the case, why not move? Who was so good on the first line at the center position?
Charlie Coyle.
Why not move him up there? Put Bergeron on the third line. Oh, is that too unheard of to put the great Bergeron? If Charlie Coyle and is playing so well and puts you in a position, why not do those things? And that goes to the coach.
Wait, how about your stars show up?
I agree with you on that.
Showing up. Showing up for Game 7. Marchand showing up for a Game 7. They interviewed him yesterday. I saw an interview talking about how many Game 7s he's played in. Oh, yeah, it's so great playing in Game 7. How about you show up? How about you show up for a Game 7?
Listen, I agree with that. I said, let's see how much criticism we drop in the lap of pasta like we do Jason Tatum when he doesn't show up in the postseason.
No, I think you're right. We talked about it earlier. He was Jim Montgomery basically said he was a de facto coach on this team, so he should shoulder a lot of the blame.
And I'm just really glad that the Bruins players got treated to an ovation after that game. I think that, a lot to be proud of last night at the Garden. My God in heaven.
And
What
if
a low point.
Well, I mean, were those people who just stayed for the goalie hug, maybe, Curtis?
Well, I mean, who doesn't love a good handshake line?
I don't know if there was a goalie hug, but if you're the players on that team, and everybody talked about this all year long, they're doing it for Bergeron. I felt like I was watching the Outsiders in 20. We're going to do this one for Johnny. Let's do it for Johnny. Like, what happened? Which, that's why I'm wondering, does Bergeron go out like that? That's what we're going to remember of Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah, I hope so, because I don't know. Again, just like the caller said, he didn't show up in a Game 7, and you couldn't.
He's 38 years old.
Exactly. Call it quits. Call it done.
Okay, you don't want
He's
you don't
already
want
said,
him. You
Curtis
don't want
already
him.
said this around Brady too.
You
Just
don't
call
want
it done.
You don't want Bergeron around for $3 million next year. If he
No,
wants to
I don't.
play.
I'm done.
Wow.
Go off into the sunset. Enjoy it. Enjoy your Selkies. I love you. Go away.
I didn't
Bergeron-
have.
Go away.
I mean, we don't
Shouldn't have
even
played
need
in
to
Game 5,
exaggerate
6, or
this.
7 either.
The disrespect is loud and clear from
First,
Shime.
the Bergeron bashing was Courtney and Greg. Now it's Shime. Curtis,
Retire. Go
you
away.
and I, the only one on
I
the
know.
Bergeron train here.
I mean, this is incredible. And by the way, I didn't have on my Greg Hill bingo card Greg being the one pulling the ages throughout.
Well, it was the $800 that I lost on this baby.
But
I will never get over that.
We talked about it earlier. You need to blow up the cultural core of this team, and that starts with Patrice Bergeron. Send him on his merry way. You had a wonderful career. We love you. Thank you. Goodbye.
If Bergeron is on the Red Sox for the last 15 years and they only have one title, we are talking about him in a totally different light.
Oh, man.
This is Salty from South Dartmouth. What's up, Salty?
What's happening, boys? How are you today? Wiggy, I'm sorry. I have to go back to what you said a little while ago. It was a little crazy this morning to me. But you're saying that a goalie change is like a quarterback change in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, in Game 7.
How is that even relevant? You have to win games to get to a Super Bowl. You don't lose games and get to a Super Bowl.
No, in Game 7. That's what I'm talking about. If you elect to start a goalie who hasn't played the whole series in Game 7, it would be like starting a backup quarterback in the Super Bowl.
It would be like starting a backup quarterback in the Super Bowl. But no, again, you're wrong, because who gave up so many goals in just a few games that you're like, why would you have any confidence in that? I'm sorry. You can't.
So then why not start him before that? I agree with you.
He should have.
Right, I agree with that point. We had this discussion
sounded salty.
on what was it, Friday? Mm-hmm. We had this discussion. I agree with you.
Well, I'm guessing that Shime, Curtis, Courtney, Wiggy, he sat Grizzlick on Friday night because of what happened in that game, right? So I'm assuming that the same should have been true when it came to Linus. I mean, it was on the two of them the way that game ended.
But a forward or defenseman is, I think it's a different type of animal when you're putting those guys in and out of the lineup. How many people thought that this was the right move to start Swayman in Game 7?
I did. We did a poll, Wiggy, Saturday, the Ken and Curtis show. 82% of the respondents said Swayman should start Game 7.
Right, and I agree. Excuse me, and I was listening to you guys, and I agreed with Ken. It was more about recency bias.
Right, there you go.
Right, it was more about recency bias and their frustration of losing Game 6. But you're putting a guy in net who's cold, who's playing in the biggest game of the series, the elimination game. That's just a ton of pressure to do. You're putting him in a situation that, I understand, Greg, you do get paid money to do this, but are you really helping out this play? Because he gives up a soft one at the beginning of the game.
He did, yeah. You're talking on the Montour goal on the power play?
Yeah, the backhand that he gave up.
Yeah.
The very first goal of the game.
Yes, he did. I mean, I don't think he'll be back here next year anyway. So I don't think you're going to have the same issue when it comes to the two goaltenders, good or bad.
Nice. So Omar can melt down in the playoffs again next year?
Oh, that's your question. Who would you prefer? Now, right now, it's going to go back to this. Linus, we talked about him, and
you're paying Linus $5 million a year, so you're not moving off him. So,
but if is Linus a regular season Vezina guy that's great in the regular season, but comes to the playoffs,
Or was he banged up? I think
he was
I
hurt.
think he had some type of injury, and I think that played into the reason why they went with Swayman in Game 7. I don't necessarily think if he was completely healthy and just had a tough Game 6 and Game 5 that they make that change.
It's all about having the mind of a goldfish.
So if he is banged up, then it's on the coach.
Well, what do you mean?
Because if you know your goalie's banged up, why are you still playing him? Why'd you?
I agree. I've been on this since Game 5, and everybody's like, "Well, we should know. Stick with Olmark no matter what. Stick with Olmark no matter what." No,
Well, no, see-
they missed the opportunity to get Swayman in there and make sure that he felt comfortable if it was to go to a Game 7.
I don't think he was banged up. I think he was like every other player, dealing with some type of pain, but he was still healthy enough to play.
The Bruins and the Mighty Ducks have the same number of Stanley Cup wins the last 50 years.